All right, that intro is a little longer than I thought, so we cut that a little bit. But this is Joe Gill of the Wicked Creative Collective, the reboot, the 2.0. We are back. Well, I'm back. Ashley has, I believe, started her own agency. I could be wrong with that, but I know she's got a lot going on with family and business and all good things. So we do miss her. She will be coming back on like a cameo. If any of you are old like me and know Cannonball Run, there's a lot of cameos in there. I know it should be Dom DeLuise, but it should probably be somebody else. But anyway, I'm very happy to welcome my friend, Carol Campos, who is a life strategist and mentor focusing on empowerment, energy, alchemy, I always say that wrong, and manifestation. She describes her teachings as Alchemy Underway. Is that how I say it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Perfect.
I try. Which is all about strategy, fulfillment, joy, and abundance. She is also the creator and co-founder of the Divine Breadcrumb, which I was so privileged to be on, online community. She spent over 20 years in corporate, most recently at a Fortune 10 company. I want to welcome our friend and yours, via Rob Stratum, Carol Campos. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great, Joe. Thank you so much. I love that intro. I'm happy to be here.
That intro is absolutely corny because that's who I am. That's what I do.
I love it.
But no, thanks for joining me. I'm happy to have you on the rebirth. When the collective strikes back, we could do any stupid sequel puns we want to do. But what's great about this one is that not only do I get to have my awesome friends from LinkedIn join me again, I have other people lined up, but I'm also going to open this up to a little bit of a different industry. I'm going to open up to some musicians that I was lucky enough to meet over at my last job, which will remain nameless for good reasons. To have them on talk about, because it's always, this is a journey, right? It doesn't matter if you're coaching, you're a musician, you're a freelancer, you have a pizza restaurant. It's all a journey. It's all a personal branding journey, and what a journey it has become. So one of the staples from the 1.0 version of the Wicked Creative Collective, say that 5 times fast, is what have we learned this week? And I know I'd be in the green room, or is it the blue room? The green room? Carol and I were talking about it, and she needed a couple seconds. So I'm gonna go first. What I learned this week, I know it's only Tuesday, we're recording on Tuesday, is that you have to be very nimble and quick to think about when you do your Zoom interviews. Okay, so this past fall, we have this big oak tree that was near our house, and I'm like, the way this year is going, I want it gone. I'm cutting it out, I want it gone. So cut the big oak tree down, cut up, yada, yada. But what I didn't realize, Carol Campos, was that it actually blocks the sun. So now that the leaves haven't grown yet, it becomes a laser beam of death. It becomes a laser from the Death Star that comes right into this window. We have those kind of like quarter moon windows around the fireplace we have. As they said, this was a resort-like bedroom. So when we bought it, resort-like bedroom. And you can't see my face. And it's like, I have an aura around me. Maybe someone mistaken me for the guy coming out of the cave soon. But anyway, behind the rock. So I'm like, oh God, what do I do? First of all, my dress attire was that I decided to rock the blazer, the tie, and the dress shirt and go full-blown jeans and Boba Fett Crocs underneath. So I'm like, he doesn't see it, so it doesn't matter. So I moved my computer on top of my stereo in the corner of the room. So, and then I opened the drawer underneath where the stereo sits to have my notes. So actually I took an interview at my stereo. So that's where I took it. So the interview, I think it went well, knock on wood. The interviewer said, "You look very nice today." I go, "Well, I dusted the jacket off for you." That's what I said.
Yeah.
So it went over. It was supposed to be 45 minutes, went an hour. So that's always a good sign when it goes over.
Always a good sign. Yep.
Always a good sign. So what I learned this week, one, just present yourself from the waist up in a good manner. Don't be like these people that aren't wearing pants. Wear pants, jeans, whatever. And wear very, comfortable shoes, which my Boba Fett Crocs are. And also, again, just try to find, you got to be well lit, and you not too well lit, like, you're getting splashing volcano lava. But that's what I learned this week, is like be very nimble on Zoom calls. What have you learned, Carol?
Well, before I tell you what I learned, first of all, I don't know. I might be a little disappointed that I didn't get the tie and the jacket, but
Well, I'm sorry. The Stevie Ray Vaughan 1983 throwback rock T-shirt that I was only 10 years old, so I didn't go to. And so I had to go a little casual. I can't wear that the neck noose too much. So
yeah. Oh, I get it. Well, first of all, congratulations on having the interview, and I agree. It sounds like it went really well if it went over. So yes, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
So as far, gosh, what have I learned so far on Tuesday?
Well, I'll give you, great. This is not beer. This is soda.
Yeah.
Which I don't have a job, so I can literally drink a beer if I want to.
That's true. That's true. No, there's no judgment here, but yeah,
judgment-free zone.
I would say, honestly, things have gotten very busy for me very quickly, which is a good thing. However, I was just dead tired last week, and I think has just overwhelmed and expending more energy in a different way than I'm used to, like being on a lot more throughout the day. And just learning like, okay, I really need to block times for myself, because yesterday I think I was chained to the desk for like 5 hours straight. It was just meeting after meeting. And that was just not good.
That reminded you of the old days, which we'll get into in a moment.
It certainly did. And some of my conversations were really great. It wasn't that, but I really have to learn to just give myself some time.
Right?
No. It's, most of what I was doing, like prior to this, there was a lot of, I'm working, but like I don't have to be on. I'm not on a Zoom call or whatever. And for some reason, that just zaps my energy way quicker.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So,
like you could do a call and go take, I think we have a dog now. Oh, actually, my dog did join me in the Zoom interview because my son, they didn't keep him in the room where they have their desk set up. So he came up and started jumping on me, and I told him, I go, sorry, my dog has joined. He goes, no worries. I think again, everybody understands what's going on.
I think so too. Yes, I agree.
Except my former boss, but we won't get into it. But anyway, so. As I said, Carol and I met through a common LinkedIn friend, Rob Stratham out of Ontario. And little did we know that Carol and I live about an hour apart. Right? So we went, were you Oxford?
Yeah.
So I'm in Groton. So we're about 15. But so we went from Groton, Massachusetts, Oxford, Massachusetts via Ontario, Canada. So whatever works. But Carol and I have met a few times. We went to a couple conferences, some networking events, which is good because we kind of each other's lean on me.
Exactly.
But where we did bond, I think, on a lot of levels, is that we both came from corporate life and decided to say, I'm not going to do that anymore right now. And decided to branch off and do our own thing. So I think you may remember my story, but I want to go into Carol's story, and I'll kind of go back and forth with some of my experiences again. But Carol, could you tell us about your personal branding journey or your journey in general from corporate to coaching?
Sure. So yeah, I was in corporate for a little over 20 years and, just trying to climb the ladder as we do. And I never really felt like I belonged there. I never felt like, oh, I love this job. A lot of times I loved the people, but I never really loved what I was doing. But I had a young child to support, so I wasn't going to rock the boat. But what I noticed is throughout my career, there was this dynamic where I'd have my review and they would tell me all good things. I would get these stellar reviews. And then they'd say, yep, so we want to give you more work, more responsibilities. Oh, but we can't pay you more right now.
We don't have any money for you.
Yeah, we can't right now. So that kept coming up. And, eventually I'd get the money or the promotion, but then I'd look around me and other people were getting their raises. Other people, like what was going on? And I was the common denominator. So each job, like this was playing out. And each time it got a little bit better as far as me standing up for myself, as I, kind of stepped into my power as I got older. I definitely advocated for myself more. But by the time I got to this last position, now my daughter was an adult. I was on my own, and some things transpired where I was, basically had a carrot dangled for about a year, and I was kicking ass. I was, I was managing 2 teams. My teams were doing a great job. Nobody was dropping the ball. And it was a very high pressure, high stress environment. There was a lot of moving parts, very quick. There was a lot of money at stake. I mean, we were managing between both teams over $100 million budget. I mean, it was a lot of responsibility, and we were doing a great job. And so I felt like I was constantly justifying and proving, and this is what the team did, and this is what we did, and this is what we did. And I'd get a lot of, yep, that's great. And they kept moving the finish line of when I was going to be compensated for all of this. So it got to the point where I just thought, well, actually, it got to the point where they told me, actually, we're not going to be able to do anything right now. We're going to do a reorg. So this was after a year of waiting. And I remember feeling so sick to my stomach. I was so mad. I felt angry. I was resentful. And that was on a Friday. And I remember when Monday rolled around, I called out. I can't even look at these people. I was so angry. But that said, if I really was being honest with myself, which I had to kind of get honest with myself, it's, do you really want to be here? Maybe this is what needed to happen, because you probably would have just stayed and stayed and stayed and not been happy.
That's what people do, right?
Right. So again, because it was just me to take care of, and I had a pretty good financial runway to give myself some time, I made the decision that I'm going to give my notice. I'm going to give a month's notice, because I didn't have a job to go to. That was part of the plan, where I was going to do all this personal development work and figure out what I really want to do and take this time and make the best use of it. And so that's what I did. And of course, I waited until I made sure my yearly bonus was secure in the bank account before I gave my notice.
Smart move.
Because I didn't trust. I didn't trust. Luckily for me, when I gave my notice, my director at the time was someone I actually really liked. The director had changed not too long before I gave my notice. And she was awesome about it. She was supportive. And I honestly didn't know if I would be escorted out, because a lot of people who gave their notice from that department, they would just have you pack your things. See you later, right? So I had it in my head, like, okay, this could go either way. I don't know, but I stayed the month. I made it, tried to transition as best I could. And then I figured, all right, I'm going to figure out what I want to do. This is going to take a few weeks, and I'm going to have this figured out.
Well, you realized what you didn't want to do anymore.
Right.
You realized that? And
I did, but you know what it is, Joe? I think I didn't realize how tied I was to the identity of this corporate person. Like, who am I now? Like, I really spun out for a while. It was really scary, because I don't know I'm not a manager anymore. I don't have a job to go to every day.
Well, it's like part of your persona was stripped away. Like, who am I?
Yeah. It was a real mini identity crisis. So I did spin out for a few weeks, and then I thought, all right, I need help. I need help with this. So I did hire.
So timeline wise, if you could say that. I mean, how many years ago was this?
So this was early 2018.
Okay. So you and I were actually on the same trajectory, because I was end of 2018 was kind of, I'll get into that in a moment, but go ahead, finish.
Yeah. So anyway, I found a coach that I really liked, and I worked with him for many months. But within that time period I was working with him, that's when the idea of the Divine Breadcrumb came through, to do the podcast and start a blog. And I'd always liked to write, but that had been put on the back burner for like literally decades, because I thought, who's going to want to read what I wrote? Like, what?
Well, I don't know. Did that creativity, was that in your blood because your dad at all?
That kid.
Maybe we should we shave that? Should we save that for the geeking out section? Maybe we'll save that for that section.
Sure.
Little nugget, who your dad is.
So yeah, that creativity had been put aside for a long time, and I was really scared to put out my writing and all of that, but it was all good. It was all growth, and
for sure.
And then sometime during that time I was with my coach, I realized it's like, gosh, I have this wealth of business experience. I don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I can use all of this. I have a lot of wisdom to bring, but then I had all these new interests, and like, okay, how can I combine this? And one of the things I did like in corporate was mentoring my team, was fostering their growth. So anyway, so that became kind of the birth of
Because
the
you were a
social
leader,
media
you were a
thing.
leader, not a boss. Because Gary
Thank you.
Vaynerchuk put a nice put a post, like in one of his cartoon-ish posts, but it said shows like the boss like telling his people to go do something, whereas the leader joined them and try to do the same thing together, the same goal together.
Yeah,
And that's a big difference in corporate America, because I'm happy to hear that which I knew that anyway, but you were a leader, because there are too many bosses out there. And I'll kind of just segue into a little bit what I just went through again. So back, you and I spoke about this, and a lot of people I know my story, but 2018, I was in corporate America. Boss left, new boss came in, new boss did not want me there, and did everything in her power to get rid of me. A lot of it outside the lines, let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
And to you, for me, it was more of getting railroaded, stressed out, like bringing it home with me and all this stuff. And I realized, like, one, I can't let, from a pride factor, let her like just demean who I am and like question who I am as a professional and put me in a bad light, because that isn't me. And you're just kind of fabricating this to get rid of me, right?
Yeah.
So I decided at that point, I was already on LinkedIn a lot, kind of what you were starting to do, right? In your journey was starting to put content out to get comfortable for the camera, start writing more, So I was like probably just 6 months ahead of you in a way.
Yeah.
But I knew then in 2018, at the end of that, I was like, I was just so miserable. But at the same time, my wife has a good job, so I'm going to preface it with that. But as any professional or as a adult of any kind, you went to school, you had your career, you want your career to be successful, and you're like, what's going on? After that point, I was already laid off 4 times. Right. So you guys might want to get a dry erase board to keep track how many times now. So, but anyway, so I knew that I had to get out of there, and it was one of the most stressful times because I had to go to her manager, her boss or her manager. I call him. He was good to me, so I would say he's a leader, and talk to him and tell him what went on. That I'm the same person you hired through 2 regimes, and we cut loose and parted ways. And I knew then I would never go back to corporate America. Then I freelanced for a year, and then I went back again like an idiot.
No, I don't think so. I mean, because if the opportunity feels aligned and it was of interest, then it makes sense to take the leap.
So a lot of people don't know this story. So I know Carol does, because Carol's part of my steering committee I had with Kathy and Deb and you to try to say, you're a good person, Joe. It's okay. Because you beat the hell out. So quickly, I got hired by a company that one of my old bosses worked for. He brought me in. I had another gentleman pitch for me. So I actually earned this job because I got recommendations from people that I really trust and I consider friends and all this stuff. So that was great. Of course, I get it right during the pandemic. Like, get off the plane. Yep. Got the job. 5 days later, the world shuts down. But they still brought me on. But what happened there is I had a boss, not a leader. So they created an influencer marketing manager position without talking to anybody, without laying any inroads. We're not talking to product marketing. We're not talking to corporate marketing. What is this person doing that we're paying, I'll say it, 90 grand plus? What is he doing? Because what happens is when there are people working and no one knows what they're doing and they make good money, they're going to go. So rather than my boss and my boss's boss, rather than blocking and tackling for me, they did nothing. They just wanted to let it figure it out itself. And a lot of people it didn't figure out. And I was caught in so many crossfires, Carol, like during meetings. Why'd you do this? We told you we didn't want this. Well, I'm sorry, my boss said this is the way it is. So you get like thrown to the wolves. Oh yeah. And that's what happened. And him and I butted heads a bunch of times. And he, I just joked about how like, oh, no big deal. Like, Doc came in on a call. Oh, he didn't like that. Oh, he didn't like that my makeshift office is in my bedroom. I could see your bed in the background. Dude, it's not like there's people doing things on it. And it's not like there's clothes piled up to the ceiling. And then one time I'm on a Zoom call and my son is next to me because I had to do shotgun. I had to be remote school. And he got mad because, I had to tell him to hold on or I couldn't hear him because my son was asking something. And I'm like, and he was getting aggravated. And he got mad at me because my internet was slow because my wife and my son are on it. And I'm like, is this really happening?
Right. Especially in the middle of a pandemic where we were all trying to navigate it as best we could. Those are the stories that, and I've heard a lot of stories, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
Where,
I bet. Okay.
where there's been a lot of managers that have not been understanding about things like that. Now, on the flip side, I have heard a lot of good stories as well.
Sure, sure.
But you would think now more than a year in, there should be nothing surprising about once in a while seeing a dog or a cat. There should
Or
be
kid,
nothing surprising of
whatever.
hearing a kid in the background. That is just ridiculous. And that is, to me, total ego. That tells me they're thinking, I'm not the most important being in the room if you have a dog or whatever, because it's not affecting, is it really affecting the meeting? Is it really affecting the conversation?
You know, the guy in the interview I just had said, say bye to the dog phone. Like he knew he got it, right?
Right.
And, you know, what was tough there is I liked the job. I liked the music industry. I liked the customers. I loved, you know, the influencers and putting stuff together and hearing the stories like what we're doing now. It was inspiring. It was awesome. I had somebody in the company that was like definitely an advocate of mine, that he was trying to make things work for us, for me there. But you know, after the first set of layoffs in October, I thought I survived it. My boss gave me the a new chapter has been written. Oh God, I've heard this one before.
Yeah.
And then December 31st, after a couple of days off of the holidays, I log in to him and I see someone else on the call, like, you know, you and I are on the Zoom call right now. And I'm like, oh, sorry, did I interrupt something? I go, oh no, this is Mary from HR. I'm like, oh, geez, all right.
Oh,
this is how this is going down. Oh yeah. And, you know, and I told you too, it really was, you know, and I was thinking, you know what, I learned a lot. There's a lot of good things came out about it.
Mm-hmm.
I set up an influencer marketing program. I built a microsite. I had a lot of good things, which they haven't touched in 3 months, by the way. Which, you know, I have an advocate over there. He knew I did a good job. You know, other people knew it wasn't me, right? Yeah. Which is good. That's validating, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that sucked about it is like, all right, here we go again. So,
yeah,
you know, and then I saw 2 weeks later the job reposted, or something very similar to that. So the whole thing about the job getting eliminated was not true, and that's what kills you more. Like things don't work out, but then when they lie to you,
right?
That, you know, that was it for me. That's the kill shot for big companies for me. I'm done. I'm done. I just, you know, I think biggest I'll get is midsize, but I can't, you know, I just can't deal with the politics, the backstabbing, the getting hung out to dry. As many people at the last company said, Joe was left on an island.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and I'm like, you know, left on an island, and people just, the motorboats are going by, and, you know, no one's throwing me a lifeline. And right. I'm sick of doing that, because, not to toot my own horn, but, you know, I put a full effort in all the time, like that blue collar work ethic.
Yeah.
I try to navigate through the tough storms. I try to talk to people. Like when my boss and I butted heads, I spoke to him. Like, how can we work this out? What's going on? Well, if it didn't work with him, I went to his boss.
Right.
I spoke to her. But when I heard, hey, I'm on your side, I'm on his side too, but, you know, he's my friend, I'm like, well, this is over. I mean, come on, let's be honest. This is all, but it was just, and that was, for you kids keeping score out there, this will be the 6th time, the half dozen, then I got laid off. But I tell you, Carol, January, so that was 12/31, January 1st, or actually I would have to say at about 12 o'clock on the 31st, I felt 3,000 times better.
Yeah, it was probably a huge weight off of you.
Yeah, but the only thing that sucked, that hurt me worse, was that all these things I was building with these influencers, that I was getting down the pike, that I was having them create content, that I was getting this website launched, all this stuff just got guillotined right down the middle, and nothing. And all these people contacted me after I left the company.
Wow.
Like, Joe, what's going on? Like, you can contact this guy and talk to him, but the way to, and these are their customers.
Right.
So for that to happen, that's terrible.
Right. But
You know?
It also just shows how good you were at what you were doing. So I mean, not that we should be seeking external validation all the time, but it does play with your head when when these things go on. So having the customers come to you, I mean, that was similar to me when I left my position, that I was having a lot of our vendors calling me, asking for advice, and how do I handle this, and nothing's getting done, and this and that. And so that made me feel slightly better, because when I left, like I said, the director I had at the time was great, but the director prior to that, I found out after the fact that he was spreading all kinds of lies about me.
Ugh.
And that really got me because I
Mhm.
really prided myself on, having
Sure.
integrity, doing the best I could, all of those things. And yeah, that was tough. That was tough to swallow because now there was nothing I could do. I was gone. I couldn't even defend myself. And what did it matter anyway at that point? But it's tough. And so having, my old internal business partners or
Mhm.
team members or the vendors reaching out to me, it's like, okay, I didn't imagine that I was good at my job. I
Well,
actually did a good job.
no, that happened to another job of mine too. It's like when they let me go, they're talking to like, why'd you let Joe go? Because when you treat the customers how they should be treated, they will always remember you.
Oh
And
yeah.
they will be bullshit when they let you go because they're like, this guy treated me perfect. What are you doing?
Oh yeah. Prior to being on the client side, I was on the vendor side for many years. And when I switched vendors at one point, I had clients follow me. I mean,
Yep.
that in itself, like that's quite a
Oh,
testimonial.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And again, I just think so, and then we'll segue into, what you're doing now. But I think like in corporate America, if you make a sexist comment or if you make any kind of, racial comment, you can be dismissed right away, which you should be. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. You should be.
Hmm. Yeah.
But bosses can back channel you, backstab you, lie, and everything. But if they get the ball across the field on their end,
Hmm.
everybody looks the other way.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
usually that gets strung out over weeks and months, and they just basically torment you.
Right.
Okay. But they can get away with that, which I find that complete bullshit because, again,
Yeah.
whatever hurtful words you say, you should be punished for those. And those are hurtful as well. And they cause anguish and
Hmm.
pain and so forth. But for someone to get who's doing a good job to get because they didn't like you, they didn't like your boss, or they,
Hmm.
whatever, for them to be able to get away with that is just beyond terrible.
Right. I agree.
I think it's
I
torture.
agree.
It's like literal torture.
Hmm.
Um, and I've been through my slew of it, but what's good now and segueing to like you and I are telling these stories now. We're not keeping them bottled up. We're telling these stories to help other people because what is the
Yeah.
greatest thing about LinkedIn, and I did a poll about how LinkedIn has changed quite a bit, but what LinkedIn was about was, you were able to, what's the word I'm thinking? God, you know what I'm talking about.
Sounds like, I don't
Sounds
know.
like, let me wait my nose. No, you can relate. My God, that's a tough word,
Yeah.
Joe. Relate. Jesus. I had a real rough Monday. My son and my dog were just out of control yesterday, and my wife was working. I had a bad day. I called it a Costco case of the Mondays yesterday. That's how big that
I'm
was.
here for you, buddy, whatever
Thank
you
you.
need.
So no, but you can relate, and I
Yeah.
don't edit anything, by the way. So you can relate to their stories. Like I related to like Michaela Alexis and Brian Schulman and
Hmm.
Matt Gagnon and you and Kathy and Deb and on and on and on. And it makes you feel like you're not alone because your spouse or your mom or your sister or
Yeah.
your best friend don't know they don't. If they're not in it,
Right.
they don't know it, right?
Right.
But what's good now is that you're kind of doing this now professionally to help people. So tell us a little
Hmm.
bit about your company now and how's it going and things like that.
Thanks for asking. So I've actually been going through some changes. I think when I originally left corporate, I really thought, okay, I want to help people who were kind of in the same boat I was
Mm-hmm.
a few years, because I've done that road. I know
Oh
that road,
yes,
and
very bumpy.
I'm not that much further ahead, but at least
Sure.
I knew I could help. And that's kind of morphed in the last few months about more, and I talk about alchemy. And for me, that's kind of playing with energy. It's talking about the subconscious and rewiring the mind
Right.
and
Right.
all of those things that I geek out over. But what I realized was even though I had studied a lot of this, manifestation, like,
Mm-hmm.
learning to attract abundance, things that sounded very woo woo, but when I kind of dug into it, there was some science behind it as well. So that I
Right.
found really
Right.
fascinating. And I realized that, okay, because I love being a student. I love watching a webinar and taking notes and learning new things, but I wasn't
Right.
necessarily embodying what I was learning. I wasn't, I had one foot in and one foot out.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was probably in February, like things had just gotten so stagnant. Like I hadn't had new clients in a while. I do have some side consulting gigs that I do.
I'm sorry, February this year, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, things just felt off. And I decided I kind of, a lot of times when I'm outside in nature, that's when I get downloads. A lot of people will say like it's in the shower, when you're walking, that's
Yeah,
when you get the
shower,
downloads.
driving, listening to
Yeah.
music, walking the dog.
Yeah.
Oh, that's me.
That's when things come through. So I got kind of just a hit about changing the name for my business, which sounds like, what's the big deal? Well, I think for me, Carol L. Campos, yes, it's my name. Campos was actually my married name. I've been divorced for a long time, but I kept my married name because I wanted my daughter and I to have the same last name.
What's your maiden name?
My maiden name is Lohn, Lohn.
Well, that's cool too.
So,
so Carol Campos does roll off the tongue.
It does. And because that had been my professional name, I didn't want to go through the whole hassle of changing my name back on like my social security and my bank accounts and whatever. But there was something about, I had done a post around the holidays, and it was just a post. It was a picture of me when I was not quite 3 years old. It was Christmas Eve, and I'm in front of the tree with my, little plate of cookies for Santa. And I'm just kind of laughing at the picture, like thinking like, oh, that's cute. But then I thought, look at this little girl. Like, she has no doubt that she's getting what she wants tomorrow. She knows Santa's coming. She's not questioning, am I good?
You're walking with some kind of like strut around the house. I'm getting the Barbie dream house.
Of course I am, I mean, and kind of, so it got me thinking as I was walking, it's like, where does that go? That just expectation, that childlike expectation and wonder and knowing. And not childish, childlike. It's very different.
Oh, yes.
And how do I tap into that? And it popped in my head, Carol Elizabeth. That was my middle name. So I'm like,
is that when your parents yelled at you, like, Carol Elizabeth, get in this house?
No, they never did, actually.
They never yelled at you? My God.
No, they did,
Perfect
but they didn't. No, they just didn't use the full name. So. But it was interesting because when I got married, 1991, I ditched the Elizabeth and made Lohn my middle name. So that's where the L in Carol L. Campos goes. So I hadn't used it. But anyway, I was just like, yeah, I am Carol Elizabeth. And when I said it, it sounds so crazy, but it was just like I got chills throughout my arms. I'm like, and that's always kind of my sign. Like, okay, there's something about this. There's some power in saying my name and claiming that name. When I came up with
Valuencer,
yeah.
Same exact thing. It's like, it's just like, boom.
Yeah.
Like,
so
do something with it, right?
Exactly. So I wasn't sure what to do with it, but I knew I had to do something. So anyway, long story short, that's what it's now, Carol Elizabeth Company. And so I have my coaching, consulting. I want to do more writing. So I want that to be kind of the umbrella, and then everything rolls under that. Now, in the meantime, back to the alchemy, I started getting really interested in that and started studying more in depth with Neville Goddard and Napoleon Hill and Florence Scovel Shinn, all these people who were teaching a lot of manifestation and abundance tools, decades ago. Like Florence Scovel Shinn was doing this in the 1920s as a woman, which just amazes me. She was out there just teaching all this stuff. And so I don't know, I was very attracted to that.
I'm sorry, just to step back a moment. So just give me like the ethos of that. Like, what is that? Like the abundance and the...
Sure. So I think a lot of people have heard of the law of attraction, or they studied this, or they watched the movie The Secret or read the book. And that was a lot. Yes. So, and not that those things aren't valuable, like doing vision boards and affirmations, but to me, that's kind of the slow boat to manifestation. It's kind of like, I think of like the Shawshank Redemption, where he's got his little rock hammer. Like, sure, he got out, but it took like 20 years. And that's how I look at those older tools. And if you do some of these other tools, like things like hyper visualization, where you're really engaging all your senses, you're engaging other people, like it's almost like, okay, here's my reality. I don't want to play here. I want to play over here with the life that I do want, and really imagining it and fully embodying it. And it sounds
like laying it out, like how to accomplish it, goals, all that stuff.
You don't even have to do that. You don't even have to worry about the how. The how is none of your business. The universe is going to take care of that.
I'm in.
And right, exactly. And I think I always believed it, but like I said, I wasn't totally doing the work. I always thought the work was like, I just have to be busy doing a webinar, or I have to be doing a phone call. The work actually feels like play, visualizing and going
Right.
out in nature. And like, it feels like, oh, I'm wasting time. But when I really started doing all of it, that's when the energy changed. That suddenly I was getting people reaching out to me again. And it was crazy. So the term Alchemy Underway came to, again, it was one of these hits. And so I think part of it is because obviously I'm interested in alchemy, but the underway to me was a nicer way of saying I'm a work in progress. Like, because we all are.
We
Like,
are.
we're all going to be changing.
Cradle to the grave. You're still
morphing.
always changing and
Yeah,
learning. And
you're always, and you think about, when you think of alchemy, a lot of times you think about, the lead into gold. You're changing something that's okay into something really cool.
Can I go from a diamond to coal? Because that's how I feel sometimes. I'm going from the diamond to like reverse.
You could. You probably could. Yeah, you probably could.
I don't want to. I go the other way. I really go coal to diamond. But
well, what's really funny too is I get really into the acronyms, but Alchemy Underway was like AU, that doesn't, whatever. But then again, got the little hit, check the periodic table of elements. Sure enough, AU is gold.
oh,
So that was my little like hit from the universe. Like, you're on the right track.
well, take that, universe.
Yeah.
One for Carol.
So it's been really amazing. And like I said, a lot of what I'm doing now is newer as far as what I'm teaching, but I'm really excited about it. And I have had so many people now reach out to me because I think this resonates with a lot of people. Like, there has to be an easier way. Why do we have, it's bullshit.
I've said bullshit a few times.
Okay, good. That you have to work so hard and effort and strive, and it doesn't have to be this hard. And I think we're all raised with those beliefs. That's what we've been told our whole lives. So it feels
Work hard,
like you're being irresponsible or you're being flighty or whatever. And what I have found, so I made the decision, March 1st, I'm going to immerse myself in all of these teachings.
Okay.
I'm not exaggerating when I say within the first 10 days, I had 2 new signed clients and my consulting gig offered me more money. I manifested so much in such a short time that PayPal sent a message that they thought something fishy was going on because
you're making so much money?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And I took a screenshot. Like, I actually did a post about it. And it has been crazy. It's just been so fun and interesting. And I want to teach everybody this.
No, so I think that's something that might fall in that category. For instance, is that my sister, for instance, she's had some medical issues in her life, and she had very hard time to have her daughter. And then they basically said, to her, you couldn't have kids. Okay. And then she's like, she tried everything and she's like, hung it up, forget it. And then she had a kid.
And
then they got
surrender.
Then they got a puppy because one child, the puppy, because there's no way she's gonna have a second kid. Well, guess what? Second kid came, and now she's like, oh God, I have a puppy. Like what else? Like, So.
Oh, well, you bring up such a good point. I think it is often at that time of just kind of the surrender of like, all right, whatever. That's when it always happens.
I think it's stress. I think stress just
engulfs
you.
It does. And that's the energy you're bringing when you're so constricted and holding on to an outcome so tight. If you're like this, how are you letting anything in your hand? I mean, it's just, that's really what it comes down to.
So I think another example of that, because I think, I don't know, the last week or so, I think because I'm looking at my unemployment payouts dwindling, like the weeks are going down, like down to now 5. And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. Because I'm not gonna lie, the $300 boost from the federal government has definitely helped. I mean, I'm not losing a ton of money, you know what I mean? Like it's, but I was getting to the point where I did a post about this, I think end of last week, early this week. It's like, oh shit, I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling it again, right? I'm feeling it now. Because I think everything that's going on in the world, and we'll kind of segue into the pandemic too. And I think this is part of what you're talking about too with the pandemic, I would say, is that everyone, because being a cancer survivor, I have GI, I have a lot of health shit going on, but I didn't make the list. Like, if I could get pregnant, I would have to get her that damn shot. And if I should have just started smoking 3 packs of cigarettes, then I could have got it too. But I didn't qualify, and I was like, shit, like, and it's not a jealousy thing, but like my sister and my brother are in the medical field, so they got it, right? My parents are older, of course, they got it and then my sister's a teacher, right? So I'm like, holy shit. The one who took this, I wouldn't say I I would say they didn't take it seriously, but I'm like hyper
Mhm.
serious about this whole thing.
Right, right.
Like I didn't see my extended family during the holidays. I didn't, I'm trying to keep
Mhm.
the bubble. Unless we go outside, I'm not going in houses. I'm not
Yep,
doing that right now. Because I've heard too many horror stories, right? And what's happening now, there's an uptick again.
yep.
Is that Thursday, this past Thursday, check on my phone, get an email from Brigham Women's. You have qualified to get the vaccination. I'm like, I have to compare it to a few things for me. One, like Willy Wonka's golden ticket. Like, holy shit, finally. Because I'm a very, you know me, I'm a very social, outgoing, love to meet people in person,
Yep.
concerts, like just life, trips, let's do it. And I haven't been able to do it, and it sucks to no end. But I know that the sacrifices me and hopefully countless others are doing, hopefully, fingers crossed, is going to make this thing end quicker. But unfortunately, there's so many selfish people that it's like we're in a tug of war. It's just going back and forth. It's not going anywhere. But I did, and then my wife's friend found out there's like a vaccination station down in Randolph. So my wife and I booked it. She's getting hers tomorrow. I'm getting mine Thursday, and I'm like, I honestly got emotional and cried a little bit because I was like,
yeah,
because it's like, the stuff with my son being home. It's been tough. Like, all this stuff.
yeah,
It's been a tough emotional ride. I lose my
yeah.
job, right?
Yep.
A
It's
tough
just
emotional
yeah.
ride. It's like kind of what you're talking about. Like things are starting to manifest in a good way finally.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
the clouds are clearing. Again, and regarding the job market, I remember there's times when I was out of work where I'd be lucky to get 2 or 3 calls a month. I'm getting at least 2 to 3 calls a week now. Okay.
That's excellent.
Right. I mean, I haven't got past the screenings and stuff, but they definitely people, because what happened now, of course, is that there's no events now. Now they're putting more budget towards digital. Be like, some people are like, hey, maybe I should get a website. Yeah, 15 years ago, but whatever, get one now. That's fine. Do what you gotta do. But just to go, but like, I see that we're turning a corner, right? I think things have finally turned a corner. So like, my son's actually go back to school next week, which I'm torn, but he needs the structure because what happens is the kids are on computers, right? So you turn your head for a second, they like the 6-gun shooter. Like they get their guns out so quick, they're already down another rabbit hole on YouTube. Like my friend's daughter was building out Amazon shopping lists.
Oh my gosh.
Her mother's like, she got no job. I don't know where she's going to get a $700 Lego set. So, but he needs it, right? He needs the structure. He needs to see kids. I'm scared to death because this thing isn't gone away yet. Everybody thinks like, oh, Thanos from the Avengers. Oh, I'm gonna step and figure everything's good. No, it's not gone.
Right.
So now he's gonna be. What's good though too is that they're putting all the remote kids together.
Oh, good.
Huge, because I thought integrating these kids. Again, I'm not too happy with Baker pulled 7 months in the school year. We're doing this for 7 weeks. Ridiculous. But anyway.
Yeah.
Which would be so hard, I think, because the kids will all be at different levels of like adaptation and so forth. So that's kind of it's a bit stressful, but thank God again. So he's going back to school, but I got the vaccine a couple of days before he gets back. So at least I'll be on the road to protect ourselves because, kids do get it too. I'm worried about him still. I was going to be worried about him until he gets a shot.
Yeah.
But I mean, so the pandemic, how has it affected you, good, bad, indifferent, like your business, everything?
So when it first started from the outside, it really didn't seem very different for me because my business model was online anyway. So that part didn't change. For me, it was a time of things moving and actually being pretty good, but not at first. I want to say it was probably right when the pandemic started. I was in the same boat as you, where I was like, okay, I got to look for something else because nothing really is moving. And then the shutdown happened and I was totally in despair. I remember just crying and what am I going to do? I don't know what to do.
Because your daughter's down in North Carolina or South Carolina?
She's in South Carolina. Yeah. Right. And talk about surrender. That was just one of those things where I just don't know what to do.
No one did.
Just help me,
Oh, yeah.
And interestingly, not long after that, it wasn't even 2 weeks, somebody approached me about doing some consulting with them. So that was a godsend. And it was interesting because when that happened, which again, we're talking about energy. Then I'm feeling better and I'm more positive. All of a sudden, here comes a client, here comes another client. So that kind of changed things up. So it, as an entrepreneur, it's like this. So there are quiet times, there's, but for the most part, it's been a good time for me as far as my business, but also as far as just learning more about myself. Like this was a big year for kind of what works, what doesn't work, feeling more comfortable in my skin, feeling better about the work that I'm doing, more connected to it, not like an imposter, all those things that come up.
Right. And I think, myself, you learn a lot about relationships with family and friends. Like my best friend since I was a little kid, very pro-Trump, very pandemic bullshit kind of guy. But what I do respect about him is I don't agree with probably 95% what he says, but we could talk about it and joke about it and disagree and it's okay, where a lot of people can't do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of division in the world. It's terrible. Like families, neighborhood, whatever. Like, I had family members give me shit like, why don't you guys come? I don't feel comfortable. Well, why not? You went to your son's hockey practice. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like the reason why I was telling people, my family, don't travel, don't go to restaurants, because I don't want you to get sick.
Right, exactly.
I don't want you to get ill. And that's the thing. And they're all like, well, we got to live our life. But here, Ma, you're 75 years old. How about you sacrifice a year and a half so you're with us another 7, 8, 10, 12 years?
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I said to him, I'd rather miss one Thanksgiving, one Christmas than them all.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's really easy math.
It's so true. It's so true. Yeah. I think with my mom, it was the opposite. She's been hyper vigilant. She actually just messaged me today that they just got their second shot. So it's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel. I actually, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, she and my stepdad invited me over, just me. So it was the three of us, because I was by myself. I couldn't be with my daughter, whatever. And I even told them, if you don't feel comfortable, I'm totally fine. I'm a big girl. I can deal, Yeah. But so it was fine. And, but I think, it's hard. I think my mom's very much an introvert. And if she could just be outside gardening she's happy as can be. But even my mom, I think she's just like, I just want to have both my daughters in the same room. And, it gets to you. It's been heavy, but I think finally now there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel now that she's gotten the vaccines. My sister is actually a scientist, and her company makes actually one of the proteins. Moderna shot. Yeah. So she has had her first shot. I haven't had any yet, but I don't have any conditions really. So,
well, I heard everybody.
I think by the 19th or something.
Well, by the 19th, but everybody was saying to me, my wife's like, well, you should use the obese one. I go, are you saying I'm fat? Because for the record, I'm still down 14 pounds from pre-pandemic time. So I'm not.
I think I've gained those that you lost. So
the LBs, you gotta share the LBs with people, but 6 feet tall, because there's all different body types. It's supposed to be 180 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm not a barbershop pole, I'm not going to be, I'm not a stilt, I'm not a pen. But it's just, there's been a lot of good things that have coming out of this thing too, that we got to look at is, I think I want to have this a staple, like the good and the bad of this thing. Like the good thing is, I wanted to get a dog. We got a dog back in
little Bolt. He's so cute.
Oh, he's not little. He's like 55 pounds.
He's very cute though.
He's very cute. He's awesome. Great. Yeah. So I wanted to get this dog for multiple reasons. Because I think it would have been good for the family, because not that he is a diversion, but is a welcome diversion, like something different to break up the monotony, breaking up the nitpicking of each other, busting each other's humps about stupid stuff and yada, yada, yada. Because what happens if he comes over here and he makes a funny sound, or he jumps the dirt sitting where the ball flies over here, you everything stops, you start laughing. Right. You got to go to the bathroom. You take him outside, and then you get a minute to yourself, and you get to think about stuff. And I walk the neighborhood. We've lost weight. We take walks as families now. Now, the best part of this whole thing is, Carol, I'm gonna just you and me right now talking about. My wife didn't want the dog. She's like, I don't want dogs. I want no part of dogs. I don't want dogs. If you get the dog, it's you and him, my son, which means 99.9 me, 1.1 him. Taking care of the dog, yeah. The love affair with this dog and my wife is unbelievable. To the point
I believe
where,
it.
to the point where, like, she goes to work 2 days a week. He will, like, I open the door, he shoots out like a torpedo onto the driveway to go see her. She tucks him in at night. She tucks him in. Like, she gives him 3 treats, tucks him in. Like, he goes now after I take him out to the bathroom, he comes right into the cage, lays down, waits for mommy.
Oh my gosh, that's the best. Well, I think pets in general, I mean, they have such a way of just teaching you to be in the present moment. And
it's
and
unconditional love.
Yeah, and it's unconditional love. Right. Yeah, I mean, I have 2 cats. They were from the same litter, originally from Tennessee. They don't have an accent, but they're very.
My dog's from Texas, and he talks like this and drinks, eats, chewing tobacco.
And well, I don't let them come in the bedroom when I'm sleeping, but in the morning I'll open the door and then kind of get back into bed, and they come in and it's just a whole love fest, and it's just, they're so cute and fun. And sometimes they drive me crazy, but at the same time it is that, like, I can look like total crap. I can be feeling like they don't care. They're just there for you.
I mean, he's almost getting like human tendencies now, like to the point where I was on the interview and he came up here and he stands up on the chair. He's like, take me out. I gotta go out, or I gotta eat. Like, come on, let's go, dude.
Yeah.
Like, but again, it worked out perfectly because he's brought us together. Which
that's awesome.
This is the time you're either gonna be splintered apart or brought together during this time, because you're close quarters here. But again, good and bad out of this. I think my family's got closer. Definitely, I know some of the stressors are always going to be there, but the thing is, like, we're in this together, even though maybe most of the world is in this together, because a lot of people want to do their own thing. Yeah. That's another episode for another day. But what's good is that you do have Zoom. You can connect with people. You can see people 6 feet away. Like, my mother and my stepfather came over. They are vaccinated, but gotta tell them, I go, doesn't mean you can't give it to me still. So you stay over there.
Exactly.
You can still hang out. You be resourceful. Like, we were outside on New Year's Day, and you do what you got to do, right?
Right.
All right. So this has been a great power hour. So there's one thing I want to finish the reboot, episode 1 of the reboot. I think this is Sweet 16 overall. Is what are you geeking out on, Carol Campos?
So I think I touched it. I'm geeking out over metaphysics right now, and just these universal laws. And yeah, I know. Okay, there's something else I'm geeking out over. Okay. So this is kind of embarrassing, but okay. So I love The Mandalorian. I know you can relate.
Oh, I do.
So okay, so what I found, I don't even know how I found this. It's a channel on YouTube. There you go.
It's my doll, everyone.
Yeah. It's reactions from it's a lot of people who are super fans. And it's like the same bunch.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I just power watch these.
Oh, Luke comes out and is like, holy shit. Like,
yes. I love it. And I'm crying. I'm laughing,
me too.
Because it's like you're seeing it through the eyes of somebody else. So I totally.
So people are going to do that for this episode.
Great.
They're going to see you and I come. Oh my God, they're together. Those are the best. No, I completely agree with you.
Oh my gosh, I got totally sucked in. It was one Sunday.
Rabbit hole.
Literally, before you knew it, hours had gone by. I'm like, what is wrong with me? This is an obsession.
Oh, that happens to me. Like, I get on all the Star Wars theories, like what's going to happen in the next episode, and I get Star Wars Mag, and there's like Empire Strikes Back Ed. I don't know all these people. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I didn't watch any of the animated series. So the one that is the clones, the Clone Wars, yes. So I didn't know anything about it. So what I learned, so here's what I learned this week. This is even more important than anything. So I learned that I missed so many exciting moments in The Mandalorian because I didn't realize that some of these characters were from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I can't talk to you.
Yeah, I know. I'm ashamed to say it, but
I'm going to geek out a little bit. Tell everybody who your dad is and what he did.
Well, I don't think you know this, but I don't know that many. So, okay, if you like middle school age in the 80s, my dad did the voice for a character for the animated series Star Blazers.
Star Blazers, of course. Yes. So anyone under the age of probably 42-ish won't have any idea what we're talking about.
Well, it used to be on at it used to be on at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Oh yes, get out of school.
So it was a big deal because, you know, my dad lived in New York City at the time. That's where he did all the voiceover work and cartoon work. And, you know, so it was a big deal when he was first on this cartoon. And of course, you know, the first few episodes I watched and it was cool because I recognized his voice. But I was a General Hospital fan, which was on at the same time.
Whoa, at
So
that age?
I know that's really
How
bad.
old?
But I was a latchkey kid. What can I tell you? I was probably 7th grade,
You
8th
what?
grade.
Well, hold on. All right.
I
Hold
know.
on.
Well,
You're
and my
watching
mom,
soap operas at
my
7?
mom had forbid me to watch them, but like I was by myself for hours. So
Oh my
anyway,
God, that's hilarious.
yeah. So when my dad would like, did you see today's episode? Yeah. So, but now just so you know, so you feel better, I have the whole series on DVD.
Well, I gotta borrow that sometime. So Star Boys, if you don't know, is with the big ship that had the big gun in the middle. Am I right?
The Argo. Yeah, the Argo.
The Argo, yes.
Yep.
Well, Carol, I can't say that this wasn't totally awesome because it was. But anyway, it was a long time coming. I'm happy the Wicked Creative Collective is back. It's very
Yeah,
good.
and I'm so thank you. I'm so grateful to be on and humbled that I was the first guest in the reboot.
Yeah, we got so. I mean, I don't know. Jennifer Klein's coming on, who's the TikTok homebody that could do everything I can't.
Yeah,
I suck, and I'm mechanically declined. She's coming on. I got some musicians coming on. It just.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's gonna be a lot. And for me, and I think for you, you could also say about the Divine Breadcrumb that the gift of podcasts is that it's therapeutic, not only for my audience, it's for me. And the guests, you know.
Exactly. Well, you bring such heart and vulnerability and humor and all these good things. So yeah.
Thank God I'm doing the video.
Wishing you well. So I'm wishing you well.
All right, Carol, please plug your socials if you could.
So on Instagram, it is I am Carol Elizabeth. My website has just changed to Carol Elizabeth Co. So if you want to reach out to me, it's carol@carolelizabethco.com.
There's the website.
And on LinkedIn, it's Carol Campos, but I have a little tree emoji in my name, so it's easy to find.
I noticed the tree. The tree.
I'm big on trees, so yeah.
Trees are awesome. I love trees because they kind of keep us alive. You saw the movie. You saw the movie The Happening, or they could kill us. Either one. So whatever works. All right. Well, Carol Campos, I want to thank you so much for being here for the reboot. I can't wait to get this going. So all you guys out there, be safe, and we'll talk soon because it's wicked awesome, kid. See you later.